Hi, everyone. My name's Vanessa Lynch with Mom's Clean Air Force. We're so excited to have you here today for our Clean School Buses for Pennsylvania webinar. I'm joined today by our partners at EPA's Mid-Atlantic Region, Emily Sapio, Electrification Coalition's Max Turner, and with PECO, we have Nicholas Scarborough and Cliff. I just wanted to start by saying we're so excited to share the latest information about the 2024 Clean School Bus Rebate Program. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type them into the chat, and we'll answer those during our question and answer time at the end of the presentation. I'll be our first presenter, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get started. So as I said, this is our Clean School Buses for Pennsylvania webinar. I'm a field organizer with Mom's Clean Air Force and very excited for this opportunity. Mom's Clean Air Force is a community of over 1.5 million moms and dads across the US and over 100,000 in Pennsylvania, united against air pollution and the urgent crisis of our changing climate to equitably protect children's health. And what that really comes down to is connecting communities who know the most about the air pollution that they're experiencing and the climate impacts around them with their elected officials and other decision makers so that we can help protect children's health and really consider that one of the most important things we're thinking about when we're making policies and participating in programs. You can see here a picture of Congresswoman Summer Lee. This is from the Pittsburgh Public Schools Electric School Bus Celebration, one of many across the state of Pennsylvania. Electric school buses really do provide some amazing opportunities. They allow every child a clean ride to school, which each one of them deserves. They provide a cleaner, quieter, and healthier commute, and they can save money for school districts. Really win, win, win on all fronts. This is a map of Pennsylvania, and you can see these are the school districts in the 2023 Clean School Bus Program who received awards. We have around 1.4 million Pennsylvania students who ride buses to school each day, and you can see that that spans across the whole state. This is just the 2023 awardees. There were awardees in other years. What's really cool about the Clean School Bus Program, one of its best qualities is that it really looks at prioritized school districts. So these can be districts with high poverty levels, rural school districts, and there are a couple other categories that are looked at. And 84% of awarded electric school buses so far have been to these districts. In Pennsylvania, you can see we had school districts like Steelton High Spire in the center of the state, Moon and Plum and Pittsburgh Public, Erie, Philadelphia. Really across the state, we're seeing electric school buses become something that our kids get to enjoy every day. The reason the electric school bus program and clean school buses are so important is diesel air pollution. That comes in the form of PM2.5, carbon dioxide, NOx, volatile organic compounds, and in that diesel air pollution, 40 known carcinogens. So what we know is that diesel exhaust is a toxic soup of gases and particulates. And that tailpipe pollution from buses has been shown to trigger asthma attacks, interfere with lung development, and contribute to cancer. And the air inside our buses can be more polluted than the air outside. What we know about children is that they are more vulnerable to diesel pollution than adults. Children take more breaths, their hearts beat faster, and their organs are still developing. And so diesel air pollution can really have a big impact. One way we can see that is that diesel pollution is an asthma trigger. Asthma causes inflammation and irritation of the lungs. It is a very serious medical condition and can require urgent intervention. And as any parent knows, figuring out how to manage illness with a kid can be very complicated. Having them be able to report when they're experiencing difficulties, being able to figure out how to consistently manage things like asthma can be very complex. And we know 1 in 12 children in the US have asthma. Another important thing to remember when thinking about asthma is that our communities of color can be particularly impacted and have higher asthma rates than other communities. Some other impacts of diesel pollution include poor learning conditions. They can be things like headaches, nausea, poor concentration, impaired cognitive performance, and behavioral problems. Electric school buses are quiet and make such an amazing difference. For anyone who ever has been on one, it's quite a significant impact in the noise, in the pollution, in the smells, really in your whole experience. This picture here is a picture of Congresswoman Chris DeLuzio celebrating with the Moon Area School District in their Clean School Bus Award. So the solution to diesel pollution as it relates to school buses is electric school buses. And the reason for that is fewer asthma attacks and missed days of school for both kids and their parents who work, healthier lung development across their lifespan, and improved academic performance and fewer behavioral issues. I'm going to share a video now, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Moms Clean Air Force is a community of parents, caregivers across the country working to protect our children's health from pollution and the biggest threat of climate change for their future. So I'm so excited that everybody is here and that we have this really awesome opportunity to check out this electric school bus.
Innovation is at least as important as regulation in terms of how we manage transportation in this country and on this planet.
The first electric school bus to arrive in Park County. It's an awesome day.
EV really is the future, so I think this is just one way to ensure that there's clean air for future generations.
You hear a regular engine? This is the bus on.
Who would like the air conditioning on?
Well, this Lion electric bus would make a huge difference to the Bozeman School District and how we care for our kids and how we care for the planet and our environment.
So you're gonna try putting it in here and push it in? There you go. And that's it, that's how it charges.
These electric buses are a really exciting prospect to be able to sort of lower those diesel fumes, help clean up the atmosphere a little bit.
If we could start transitioning electric school buses, if I could see that in the next 5 years, which is critically important, would be a huge accomplishment, not just for my children, but for children across the country and around the world.
So that was a great video from our friends in Montana, but we also can look at some really good research that's been done to look at whether or not the EPA's Clean School Bus Rebate Program can have a real impact. And what the University of Michigan found was that reducing school bus pollution does improve children's health. It can decrease the number of daily absences in a single school year by 14 million fewer absences for the 25 million children who ride school buses every day. And so this is really great news that we know what we're doing can have a really amazing impact for kids and for families. This is just a great picture of our kiddos celebrating again this amazing program and the benefits that it brings. So one of the questions that a lot of people often have is, what can you do to help? Encouraging school district leaders to learn more about electric school buses, sharing the EPA's Clean School Bus Program information in your community, partnering with community organizations like Moms Clean Air Force to educate families and elected officials, and really considering the cumulative impacts and vulnerable populations who experience the worst of air pollution. Getting excited about electric school buses powered by clean energy is a really amazing way to make a difference and to create a better future for our kids. So up next, we will have Max Turner, Senior Campaigns Organizer with Electrification Coalition.
Thanks, Vanessa. Really appreciate you taking the first round. I'm also going to share my screen now. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. As Vanessa said, my name is Max Turner. I'm a senior campaigns organizer here at the Electrification Coalition. I mainly work in Pennsylvania and Virginia from the kind of mid-Atlantic region. So super excited to be talking with you all today. So to start out, the Electrification Coalition is a national nonpartisan nonprofit organization, mainly looking to facilitate the widespread adoption of electric vehicles to overcome economic, public health, and national security challenges that stem from America's dependence on oil and need for energy diversification for our transportation sector. So as you can see here, electric mobility really is one of the best scalable alternatives for reducing U.S. oil dependence and kind of creating a more diversity in how we power our vehicles. So electricity tends to be very low price and stable and often domestic in source. And as the electricity grid is growing even progressively cleaner, prices are insulated from the unstable oil market. So we really see it as the kind of next step for American transportation. So yeah, just to give a quick kind of overview, these are the states that the EC is involved in. The kind of darker shaded ones are ones that we are kind of main priority states. Others we participate kind of with state fleet electrification or some key programs in cities and municipalities across the country you see in the orange dots. And then just a quick overview of what we do. We work in federal policy, state policy. We do charging infrastructure expansion and programs, fleet electrification, and we also have a couple different kind of groups. We have our Electric Freight Consortium, which is the kind of different companies that all work in the electric freight space, kind of providing best practices for those that are maybe newer to the transition or looking to transition in the future. And as well, we have our Port Electrification Network that does a very similar thing for ports. So always feel free to reach out if any of these resonate with you, in addition to the electric school buses. So to start out, we have the general case for electric school buses. As Vanessa also said, and very well put, we see a cost saving for school districts over the lifetime of the vehicles. Due to saving fuel and maintenance saving costs, you can see about $6,000 annually per bus and more than $100,000 over the lifetime of the vehicle and savings. And this can be really important for school districts. This can go towards school supplies, staffing, extracurricular programs. We know there are many other things that school districts would love to prioritize and often have tight budgets. So saving money can really be a key next step. And then, as Vanessa very well put, this is also about the health of students. Obviously, that is the most important thing. So we see the reduction in harmful pollutants and improves air quality for the students in and outside the bus. When they're standing outside at the bus stop waiting for the bus while they're riding on it, it's quiet, it's clean, and it really is just a great experience. And then lastly, some other kind of benefits we see are the potential for vehicle to grid infrastructure. This can provide grid resiliency, and in some localities, if your utility has a program, can even generate funds. So this can be seen as kind of two-way or bidirectional charging and discharging between the buses and the grid. This can enable the buses to discharge stored power back onto the grid, particularly in times of need, whether that's, high demand, in the evening when those buses are, an evening and night when those buses are plugged in and don't necessarily need to be used until early the next morning, but we're all at home and, we have our heating on, our cooling on, we're cooking, the lights are on. So some of these utilities can kind of use them to manage their capacity and demand that they see in the evenings when buses are a little bit less necessary and they have higher demand from us all being at home, and maybe even charging our personal EVs. And then this can also be said for the potential for vehicle to building infrastructure, which can be really useful for local emergency preparedness. So definitely feel free after, you can click this link from the presentation or check out our website. We do have a full kind of V2X, which is V to everything implementation guide that kind of takes you, this guide like includes detailed steps for emergency managers, responders, other key stakeholders such as school district managers and electric utilities to take before, during, and after an emergency to be able to deploy these vehicles to be able to be used to provide emergency backup power. They're essentially mobile power units. And so being able to efficiently and effectively use those during an emergency can be really, really key. But it is definitely important to, plan for this in the beginning, talk to your utility. That is the most important thing. And then also talk to your emergency preparedness coordinator for your locality. And they really do have the potential to, plug into your gymnasium if you need it during some kind of, natural disaster emergency and need to provide shelter in case of any kind of grid outage. So they really have the potential to be really wide ranging in their usefulness, not just for getting our kids on a clean school bus. So next, kind of just an overview of what electric school buses in EPA Region 3 look like. There's a big discrepancy definitely between the number of committed electric school buses and students riding on them, still kind of getting some of those delivered. But you'll definitely start to see the number of students riding on those buses just continue to increase each year. The EPA's program has been very successful at doling out this money and are definitely excited to see more buses just getting delivered every day. So in Pennsylvania, this is one of the states that I personally work in a lot. There are approximately 35 districts with third-party operators or school districts that have delivered or committed electric school buses. The majority of the funding sources come from the EPA's Clean School Bus Program, rebate and grant rounds. So we've seen over $99 million go into Pennsylvania school districts so far from the program, which is just amazing and has really been super, super useful. But we've also seen other programs such as the Alternative Fuel Incentive Grant Program or AFIG, the EPA's DERA or Diesel Emissions Reduction Act grant, and the rebate program, as well as Pennsylvania's PennDOT's Driving PA Forward truck and bus fleet electrification program. So, the EPA program has been so successful in Pennsylvania and will continue to be, but it will definitely come to an end at a certain point. And so we really do see a need for a state program as well to either supplement the EPA program and provide even further kind of backbone and support for those school districts after they get that funding from the EPA, but also, provide more funding further down the road that doesn't necessarily come from the federal government. So we have been really advocating for a state electric school bus grant program in Pennsylvania during this past legislative session, and will also be advocating for it moving into the next year's legislative session. If the program is implemented and allocated proper funding through the state budget, school districts will be able to apply for and receive grants for the cost of procuring the electric school buses, any depot and facility upgrades needed, necessary charging infrastructure and installation, as well as staff training and grant writing. A critical part of this is we know that many school districts would love to see the benefits of electric school buses, but often don't necessarily have the staff time or expertise to really devote to some of these lengthy grant writing applications, processing, and kind of keeping up with all that. And a portion of the funds would also be designated to provide continued technical assistance to school districts that either received EPA funding or received funding from this or both, to continue and find other sources of funding possibly, and also just provide best practices with transitioning their fleet and kind of being able to talk to different school districts and, see how they solved an issue and got over some kind of barrier. So we really see this as a key part of this. And lastly, in Pennsylvania, we know that so many school districts use contracted bus operators or third parties. So they would definitely be eligible for this program as well to ensure that all the school districts and all students in the state can kind of see the benefits of electric school buses. So quickly looking at Virginia, we have approximately 50 school districts with delivered or committed electric school buses. Very similar here, the EPA's Clean School Bus program has been very widely successful, and we've had over $74.5 million go to Virginia school districts so far. We also have the Dominion Energy, the utility, electric school bus grant program, started in 2019. They partner with Virginia school districts, and they, kind of work with you if you have funding from the EPA's program or any other kind of funding source. They work with you to provide that kind of fast charging infrastructure to the school districts and all the, kind of utility installation aspect of it, because we know that that can be really time consuming and costly. So definitely really recommend this program. We've seen a lot of school districts, have been able to benefit from this very successful program. They work with Thomas as well to kind of get you those Thomas Julie buses, as well as Lion Electric, and Sunny Merriman, a school bus provider in Virginia. So they've seen a lot of success. And definitely just a quick shout out that this is the largest utility-led electric school bus initiative in the US. So definitely love to see Virginia being so successful with this. The one thing that I will mention with this on the kind of advocacy front is that Virginia does have a state electric school bus grant program. They were one of the first states in the country to have one, but it unfortunately has remained unfunded as of yet. We had some portion of the kind of VW settlement funds that were originally used to kind of purchase some of those electric remain unfunded. So we're working with a lot of really great advocate organizations in Virginia, like Mothers Out Front, Virginia Clean Cities, and others, to really advocate for finding a funding mechanism for the state electric school bus grant program. Like Virginia or like Pennsylvania, we really see this as a key next step to not only supporting the school districts that are already receiving funding, but also getting funding for the school districts that maybe don't get it further down the line. So definitely really want to see this come to fruition. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to myself. Obviously, any utility questions, definitely reach out to Dominion Energy directly. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to be connected with them. We have some contacts over there. And then also definitely will shout out Mothers Out Front and Virginia Clean Cities are really, really great partner organizations we've worked with in Virginia if you have any other questions as well. These are a few other kind of funding sources they have. And yeah, we're definitely all kind of in on advocacy on this. So you'll see the two grant programs that we are definitely advocating for, as well as enacting the Advanced Clean Trucks rule in Pennsylvania. The electric school buses would be a part of, but also looking at those kind of larger freight vehicles. So really looking to advocate for that as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your time. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out. And I will pass it on over to Emily Sapio, the life scientist for the Environmental Protection Agency's Mid-Atlantic region. So over to you, Emily. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Max. One second while I get this up. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. Okay. Does that look okay to everybody?
So that looks great.
Okay, great. Awesome. Sorry, working on one screen here, so a little difficult. Okay. So I'm Emily Sapio. I work in EPA Region 3's Air and Radiation office. I'm going to discuss the EPA Clean School Bus Rebate 2024 funding today. So an overview of the Clean School Bus program. Under the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, it provides $5 billion over 5 years for the replacement of existing school buses, zero emission and clean school buses. Under the Clean School Bus funding opportunities, we have offered rebates and grants. The next round of funding that's open right now is the 2024 Clean School Bus Rebate Program, and this is our fourth funding opportunity under the program. So Vanessa and Max talked a lot and shared some great information on why clean school buses. First off, they reduce greenhouse gas emissions, cleaner air. This is in the bus, around the bus. Specifically in Pennsylvania, as Vanessa discussed, there's high asthma rates. Philadelphia specifically is ranks 3rd nationally. So it's really important that we get these diesel buses off the road and clean the air up for the kids and the surrounding communities. They're also associated with cost savings, which reduces the maintenance and fuel costs. And Max was a great resource on the vehicle to grid capabilities. So that is definitely something, the resiliency that comes from these buses as well is a great opportunity to build up that source as well. They're also associated with improved student attendance and achievement. Transportation of students with these buses has shown more attendance rates and academic achievement as well. So this is an overview of our Clean School Bus selectees throughout the program. So on the left, we have our Region 3 selectees from 2022, 2023, and for the 2023 rebates. On the right is our Pennsylvania selectees. For 2022 Clean School Bus rebates, we had 11 selectees in Pennsylvania, and this amounted to about 40 million in funding and funded 105 electric and 1 propane bus. The following year with the grants, we had 2 selectees serving 5 school districts with 47 million in funding, and we were able to fund 120 electric buses. And in the last round of rebate funding in 2023, we had 25 selectees. So this is a rebate program overview. This program is open now. We are offering 965 million for clean school buses and zero emission buses. This amount may be modified based on how many applicants we get and other factors, and is subject to change. Eligible activities include the replacement of existing internal combustion engine school buses with electric, propane, or compressed natural gas school buses, as well as the purchase and installation of electric vehicle supply infrastructure. Vanessa touched on this as well. As we did in the past programs, we are prioritizing applicants that will replace buses in high-need local education agencies, tribal school districts funded by the Bureau of Indian Education, or those receiving basic support payments for students living in tribal lands and rural areas. And this is EPA's commitment. We're ensuring that we deliver on the Justice 40 initiative. So one change from the 2023 Clean School Bus Rebate Program, we did increase the bus maximum to 50 buses, but we decreased the funding per bus. This is an attempt to get equipment manufacturers to lower their prices so it can help everybody out. So under the program, we have offered rebates and grants. While both grants and rebates provide selectees with award funds prior to purchasing eligible buses infrastructure, there's a few differences. So for the application process for rebates, it's a little quicker, it's a little simpler. We've been really taking that feedback into consideration with how we will be doing following rounds. We've heard a lot of feedback that rebates are a lot easier. So that is something we're taking into consideration. For grants, it's a little longer, more detailed application process, and it sometimes isn't the best process for some of these smaller fleets. So that's something that we're definitely aware of. Selection process for rebates is a random number generated lottery process. So that is how the selection process will work for the 2024 rebate. For grants, it's based on evaluation and application materials. So financial timing, documentation, and regulations for rebates. Selectees receive funds upon EPA review and approval of purchase order documents. Selectees work with the vendors to disperse these funds as possible. And then for grants, they must follow all the applicable requirements in the T2 CFR 200 requirements. And you can check that out in the past NOFO for that notice of funding opportunity. Okay. So eligible applicants who can apply under the 2024 Clean School Bus Rebate is state and local government entities, public charter school districts, Indian tribes, tribal organizations, or tribally controlled schools, nonprofit school transportation associations, and eligible contractors such as OEMs, dealers, private school bus fleets. Here is a breakdown of the bus infrastructure funding. So for buses serving school districts that meet one or more prioritized criteria, specifically for if you're looking to replace and get electric buses, you can get up to $325,000 for bus and charging infrastructure. And then for buses that serving schools that are not prioritized can get up to $170,000 for bus and charging infrastructure. This can be split however way you want. If you want to put more towards the buses or more towards the charging infrastructure, it's really up to what your needs are. There's also opportunities for tax credits. Selectees may be eligible for IRA tax credits on their buses and infrastructure. It's not reflected in this table. And you can check out the IRS website for information on that. EPA does not have involvement with that, so we cannot answer any questions on that. Okay. So infrastructure funding restrictions. So eligible expenses are all expenses that are behind the meter. We cannot provide funding for non-eligible expenses, and that would be anything that is on the front end of the meter. So that would include utility distribution network, and transformers are not covered under this funding. Whereas the meter, the panel, charging stations, the bus, any renewable generation systems, batteries are eligible expenses. Next is how to apply. This is an overview of the application process. First, I suggest that you visit the Clean School Bus website. There's lots of tools and resources there. Next, you would want to register your organization with sam.gov if you haven't done so already. This can take about 4 weeks for this to be processed and go through, so please do not wait till the last minute to do so. The faster you do this, the better. I would hate that anybody is, ready to go on this, but they just can't get through with the sam.gov, so please make sure you do that as soon as possible. Complete your application forms and supplemental application forms as well. And then you must submit these application packages by January 9th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Some recommendations. Talk to your contractors, school boards, and transportation managers as soon as you can. It's important that there is a 5-year requirement that school buses must be serving the school districts for 5 years. So you want to make sure that that is all taken care of before you go through the whole application process, because this cannot be changed. This is a requirement. So also put an emphasis on infrastructure planning and utility engagement. After I speak, we have PECO speaking today about their involvement with Clean School Bus and how they function as a utility with this funding. So definitely make sure that you're getting in touch with your utility. You want to know your existing power supply, your charging infrastructure needs, and upgrade needs to support your fleet. You can also check out on the website our utility engagement pledge, which has a lot of resources on making sure that we connect applicants with your utility if you're having trouble with that. So those resources can be found there, or you can also reach out to the helpline at Clean School Bus at EPA.gov. You want to make sure you choose your fleet composition and complete a route analysis. We also have the Joint Office of Energy also has resources where you can, they'll complete route analysis for you and work with you to see what you need specifically. You can also find those resources on the website as well. And then we'd also say utilize other national, state, and local level resources. As I said, the Joint Office has a transportation helpline. And then also you can check out the other live recordings that we have on the website as well. And we'll include presentations such as this. And this, as I mentioned, the Joint Office provides a lot of resources. They help you coordinate with your electric utility. They help identify funding and incentive needs that can bridge that gap in funding. They can analyze charging infrastructure needs, analysis. They can do training and workforce development plans, and they have information on vehicle-to-grid technology, and they can analyze energy needs and identify solar and battery storage opportunities if that's something you're interested in. You can visit Clean School Bus, email cleanschoolbus@nrel.gov if you want to reach out to the joint office on any of these resources, or go to driveelectric.gov. They have a lot of resources on the website as well. Some important dates to keep in mind. From October to December, we have tons of webinars on the program online. November 14th by 4 p.m. is the final date to submit questions to the helpline. You can do that at email cleanschoolbus@epa.gov. January 9th, 2025 by 4 p.m. Eastern is the application deadline. So make sure you submit that by then. Try to do it sooner because sometimes there's some issues with grants.gov. So if you end up having some kind of issue, we want to make sure that you're not held up on that end. And then we anticipate announcing selections by spring of 2025. June to November 2025 Select D payment request forms will be issued, and then May is the project period deadline. So in summary, applications must be submitted to EPA no later than January 9th at 4 p.m. Dates and topics for future webinars are on the website. Future funding opportunities, EPA encourages school districts to consider which works best, grants or rebates. We do anticipate opening additional CSB funding opportunities. We have not decided whether it's going to be a grant or a rebate, but we're still, that's still in the works, and we'll be in touch on that. And then last is just some links. This presentation will be sent out, so you'll definitely be able to utilize these links here. And lastly is just some contact information. This is the rest of my team. You can reach out to any of us specifically, or you can utilize the helpline at cleanschoolbus@epa.gov, or reach out with technical questions to the TA line as well. And that is all I have. And next I'll be passing it over to Nicholas Scarboro, who's the customer account manager at PECO, and Cliff Krause, who is the senior energy efficiency program manager at PECO. Thanks.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Nick Scarboro. So I'm the manager in large customer services for the commercial team. And my team supports all these school districts in PECO's territory. So here at PECO and all of our sister utilities under the Exelon umbrella, we have our own path to clean commitment, right? We have our own path to clean goals. We'll reduce our operation-driven emissions by 50% by 2030, and we will achieve net zero operation-driven emissions by 2050, right? And the reason I wanted to talk about that is because that allows us to support our customers in their efforts to embrace clean energy and reduce your environmental footprint by promoting affordable and equitable policies that support energy efficiency, advance electrification and EVs, and expand solar adoption throughout our region, right? So we want to be your key energy partner in this process. And we'll talk about some things we want you to consider as you go through this process. Electrify your fleet simply and efficiently. So plan your charge before vehicle purchase. PECO is ready to help you start your EV journey and evaluate what is needed to be prepared for service upgrades to align with your fleet procurement. Know your fleet vehicle requirements. While EVs require greater initial investment than traditional fleet vehicles, the fuel cost savings can be significant. Managing the cost of electricity will be an important factor in your total savings and total cost of ownership. Make sure that the EV equipment you're selecting is a good fit for your use. Your electric bill will depend on how you charge. The cost of electricity depends on the fleet charging profile. In general, managing when the EV is charging, what power level and for how long will lower the costs. Leverage available support. The Exelon Energy Grid is ready for fleet electrification today. but the infrastructure needed to provide electricity to get to a given location is highly site specific. I think Emily talked about, the front of the meter costs, and this is what this is speaking to. The extent of the service upgrades that may be needed will depend on a host of factors, including how many EVs will be charging concurrently and at what power level. So the sooner we get that information to us to help guide what that potential cost could be, the easier the process is for those looking to get the grant. And then engage us early and often. This process requires transparency. We will need to know about any modifications to your service so we can stand ready to help make your vehicle electrification goals a reality. When you start down the grant process and you have the initial vision, loop us in. If that changes along the way, loop us in, because if there are changes, it can modify the cost, it can reduce it. We may be able to feed you in a different way than we originally thought. So that back and forth communication is important. And as early as you can get to us as possible is also important. So I spoke to this on the manager of the team, but the large customer service contact for EV school buses is Ralph Brown. Ralph Brown handles all of these suburban school districts and helps support the Philadelphia School District as well. Put his email in here and his phone number. We also have the link for the service and meter application. You click on that link, it'll take you to PECO.com, and that's where you'll put in the details, the account information, the number of charges, the anticipated load. The vendor and us can help support you through that process. There's a link for a PECO EV page, and that has like our most up-to-date programs, grants, initiatives. Cliff will talk about that after I'm done here. And then there's a link for our large customer services, which is, my group, and that it has also, different initiatives and opportunities to partner and help support this process as you go through it. So I just wanted to walk you through the process in terms of you're ready, you got, you either have the grant or you're thinking about the grant. The initial upfront information that we need is a service and meter application, and that would come into Ralph. There's no cost associated with initiating the request. The EV infrastructure projects are very site specific, and the cost will determine based on the capacity that you're requesting, our available load in the area and the location that you want to put the chargers. And I strongly suggest, again, we get into that early because you're working with your vendor for the buses. And then we also have the insight to say, all right, we've gone through this before. Let's look at where the load is. Maybe we put the sites over here, and that back and forth conversation kind of works to get an optimal solution for everyone. So once we receive the service and meter application, you get assigned to a contractor liaison. A design construction consultant reviews the information, and we send it to capacity. And capacity is where, we're bringing this new load onto the system. Where do we think we can feed them from? And capacity reviews that, issues a high level cost estimate and a project design for the project. And then there will be a 10% design deposit of that potential cost. And that 10% design deposit will get into the details, a more detailed estimate or a more detailed design of how we're going to feed the power to help support, the electric vehicle or the electric school bus charging infrastructure. So you decide to move forward. Yes, the project will move forward to the detailed design. We'll apply revenue credits based on a 5-year revenue adjusted credit, and we'll use that to offset some of the project costs. Depending on the size of the load, the potential is there to offset the total construction costs. So there's opportunity there as well. Customers may have additional costs related to the construction, and we'll get that after we have the detailed design in place. And then if you get the high level cost estimate and say, listen, we don't want to pursue it at this time, I think that's before you get the grant. But after you get the grant, then we'll work with you to figure out a solution. You can revisit the project at any time. If the project was stopped for more than 90 days, we do require a new application. And that's just because our system is very dynamic. So where we thought we would feed you from last year will probably be, or has the potential to be, a little different from where we would feed you from today. And that's kind of the overview of how that process will work through my group. I'm going to pass it on now to Cliff, and he's going to talk about some of the opportunities there for his group that we offer in the space. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nick. So I think I'm getting all set up here for my presentation. So my name is Clifton Krause. I'm a program manager here in the Strategic Programs Group, and I'm going to cover PECO's EV Smart Commercial Charging programs. All right, so just a quick rundown on why we have these programs and what they offer. So as Nick had stated, this is another program here that supports PECO's Path to Clean. Helps build out the EV infrastructure in our service territory and provides the company with valuable EV charging data to inform future rate design and forecasting loads and that kind of thing. So the rebates have so far provided over $550,000 in money back to customers for putting in the infrastructure, which has gone towards the installation of over 160 charging stations, which contain 225 charging ports. So a bunch of build out there already going on. Who's eligible? So commercial rate PECO electric customers are who this program's designed for. So they are who's eligible. So if you're a PECO customer, this EV infrastructure would need to be connected to a commercial rate electric meter. We do cover level 2 and some DCFC chargers, which I'll get into in the next slide or two. And as I stated, it does provide data to us. So we do require the customers link up with an approved network provider, which I'll discuss further in my slides. We have about 23 on board now, so a good amount to choose from, most of the big names and big players in the field, but we can onboard as well new network providers and equipment. Just examples of eligible projects that we've seen and some that we have not seen yet, but fleet charging, employee charging, public and private charging, residential charging, as long as it's connected to a commercial rate electric meter, and more. So a lot on this slide, but 3 things just to keep in mind. We do provide up to $60,000 in rebates per customer. You must apply prior to construction, so you need to get into us early before you start digging. And you requires, like I said, 2 years of data collection through an approved network provider, which I'll discuss in a second here. All right, so the EV Smart Commercial Charging programs are made up of 2 separate programs. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail here, but as a customer, it's nothing you need to really worry about too much. It's really just for your educational purposes. We have a single application, and the process is set up so that we will determine, which program you belong in, and determine eligibility and your rebate amount as well. So this is really just for information. But for most folks on this call, it's going to be that public benefit program. So I'll start there. So on the left-hand side, public benefit program offers up to $60,000. It does include DCFC chargers for those use cases, as well as level 2 chargers. So one of the main differences between the 2 programs here is in the public benefit program, it's specific to customer type and use cases. So in the case of the folks on the call here, public transportation services are one of those use cases. So that's transit authorities, that would be school buses, ride share, that kind of thing. And we also cover local government, nonprofit organizations, and publicly accessible EVSEs is electric vehicle service equipment or supply equipment, excuse me, in environmental justice areas, which are a set of metrics that the PADEP determines for areas that are disadvantaged and considered environmental justice areas. So that's the public benefit side of the program in a nutshell. The other side is the level 2 EV charging pilot. This is a little more generalized. We've seen a lot of small businesses come through this as small as one to 2 chargers, all the way up to 20. But there is employee charging that's covered there, fleet charging, residential charging, again, as long as it's connected to a commercial rate electric meter. And what we've seen there is mostly HOAs and condos and things like that. So another big difference between the 2 programs, that level 2 pilot covers make ready costs, whereas the public benefit program is 50%, up to 50% of the construction costs. And I think that's it for this slide. Most customers on this call probably aren't transit authorities, but if they are, if there's anybody that represents the transit authority, there is a part of the public benefit program that includes fast chargers with a capacity of at least 250 kilowatts per charging port, and they would be subject to a maximum incentive of $500,000 per project. So just want to state that, but that is specific. The transit authorities is a designation in Pennsylvania here. So, all right, so I'm going to take everybody through the process here. I tried to create this and make it. It's a very busy slide, but try to do it in a simple way to explain how it works and kind of walk everybody through. So there's a couple different parties involved in the process. Of course, the applicant being the customer and their electric vehicle supply equipment, which is your manufacturer. And a lot of times it's the same for the network provider. Sometimes they're different. You can have a manufacturer of a piece of equipment and have a different network provider. Sometimes it's the same. So that's on one side of the equation here. The bottom side is the Center for Sustainable Energy, and that's our program administrator. So they're representing PECO through this process. They are, like I said, our program admin, and they manage the application process. They provide customer support, rebate payments, data collection. So if you enter through this rebate process, you'll be dealing with the Center for Sustainable Energy. So there's 3 steps to this this process here. I'd at least try to lay it out in 3 steps, I guess I'll say. So the first is reserve. Then there's construction, where, like I said, you have to apply prior to construction, and then you're going to come back once you're energized and tell us that you're ready to go. So as part of that reserve portion, where we're going to get your money set up, you're going to apply through PECO's website, PECO.com/EV. I have that link later in the slide here. And our program administrator is going to review, approve, and then lock in that rebate amount. And you're going to get an up to amount. It can be up to $60,000. Really just depends on the estimated construction costs that you're providing in that application. From there on, you have 260 days to construct and energize your EV equipment. That includes designs, permitting, construction. Within that 260 days, Center for Sustainable Energy is going to come back and ask for updates at 90, 60, and 30 days prior to the expiration of the rebate itself. We're looking for project timeline updates, communication of any delays and any scope changes that may impact the timing of that rebate payment. And really, it's not that we're trying to get too involved in your process there, but we're also trying to budget and just make sure that we don't cancel anybody's rebates if they need an extension or something like that, which are handled on a case-by-case basis. All right, so you're good to go. You've constructed within 260 days. You've come back to now again to the PECO.com/EV, and you're going to submit your what we call our rebate redemption request. So it's another form, pretty simple. You're going to give us all the information that we need. There's a template or 2 you have to fill out so that we can get the equipment information and make sure the data stuff is set up. And then we're going to look at that. Our CSE team, Center for Sustainable Energy, is going to validate that, and they're going to make payment. Now, a big portion of the ability to make that rebate payment to the customer is the charger data collection. So this is where we're going to establish that connection with the supply equipment, with the network provider, and we're going to test it, and we're going to make sure that data can be provided before we get the rebate itself. So it's a really critical key component in making sure that the rebate's paid out. So I'm going to run through really quickly. Again, so you come to us as a customer, you submit your application prior to construction, provide any requested follow-up info if there's any incomplete or anything that we need to reconfirm. We're going to review it, and we're going to give you that rebate amount total up to X amount of dollars. From there, you're going to construct within 260 days, provide updates as requested, and we're going to reach out to you in those 90, 60, and 30-day intervals prior to the expiration. Last is you're going to come back once your chargers are energized, ensure that your networked capabilities are good to go. Sometimes you have to enroll those chargers, that kind of thing, just to make sure that the network providers are linked up and it's active, and submit your rebate redemption request. We're going to review that, confirm the network status, and pay your rebate. So real quick here, just want to get a little bit, emphasize the network provider element of this. So the program, as I said, does require using an approved EV charger network. that's required. And we have currently 23 approved network providers with the ability to onboard new network providers. So I've got a few on the screen here. We don't endorse any specific network providers or anything like that. That's just an example. We've got a bunch more that you can see on our program handbook at peco.com/EV. But we've got a lot of the big players there. And if you come to us in an application with a network provider that's not on our list, we will work with them directly to set that up and try to get that in place and established. However, there are no guarantees that a non-approved network provider will participate in our program. So for that purpose, any customers that come to us with network providers that aren't approved, those applications are actually placed on hold until we go through that process. And the reason for that is we don't want to get everything set up. You guys are depending on these dollars. You put everything in, do what you need to do to find out that the network provider either won't sign the agreement to provide data or simply cannot, which hasn't been the case so far, but it's something that we're putting up front with customers and making sure that's done. The way the networks or the data is provided, it's all secure. It goes through the equipment itself into a cloud for the network provider. It's provided over to our program administrator, CSE, Center for Sustainable Energy, who cleans it up, puts it all together, and provides it to PECO for analysis. All right, so just a review here, a rundown, just a refresher of everything I kind of talked about. Some key elements: apply prior to construction. This is only available for commercial rate electric customers. It does require 2 years of data, and you must use an approved network provider. It does provide up to $60,000 in rebates per customer. It does cover some DCFC equipment and level 2 chargers that are eligible. And you can get all the information on how to apply in the program handbook over at peco.com/EV. I have one more slide after this, but I do want to say that the program in its current state is slated to end at the end of December. Now, the company has proposed an expansion to this program, a 5-year extension in front of the PA Public Utility Commission, which we are awaiting and expecting a decision on in December. So we feel pretty good about it, but the PUC has the final word. The program will look slightly different on the other side of that, mostly for the level 2 program. But one of the biggest benefits that we hope to come out of that extension is that $60,000 currently is per customer for the life of the program will change to an annual basis. So I won't go into any more detail than that, but there's some lessons learned, some changes we're making in that proposal that once we have a decision from the PUC, hopefully sometime in December, we'll announce everything on our website and just make it known to the world through that. So you can check peco.com/EV for details, December, January timeline to see the status update. Last slide here, just a pitch for our PECO EV education program. This is something that we do out in the community. I was in an event yesterday, just representing sort of the fleet side of things. But this is really tabling and we try to get out in front of customers and educate them on EV ownership, that kind of thing. So just like to put this out in presentations. We do, it's really just me. So I'm happy to come out and, within PECO service territory and set up a table at community events or any kind of events in schools or things like that, that are appropriate for EV education. We could possibly bring an electric vehicle, PECO's fleet, but I need some good notice there. But it's out there, it's available. At minimum, happy to do virtual things, webinars, that kind of thing to help spread the word about EVs and what PECO is doing in our service territory. So with that, that's the last slide for me, and I believe I'm passing it over to Vanessa.
Thanks, Cliff. So we've hit the 1 hour mark. I don't want to keep anybody too much longer, but I did have one question that came through that I wanted to get an answer from Emily. There's a question about, we mentioned prioritized districts, and there was a question about what % of non-prioritized districts would be getting funding during this round. Could you answer that? Emily, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry, I was still muted. I believe it's 70%, but let me double check that and I can get back to you on that and I'll throw it in the chat.
Awesome. Okay. Well, since our time is up, I just want to say thank you to all of our partners who helped us. If anyone has other questions, you can always reach out to us directly with those questions for sure. And we'll be sending out the slides following the presentation, so those will be available to you as well. So thanks from all of us, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks so much. Have a great